This is a prayer for parenting in a pandemic. A prayer for the dirty laundry and piled up dishes. A prayer for dance parties and cuddle puddles. For long walks and improvised science experiments. For screen time as education and distraction.
This is a prayer for working parents, Zooming another meeting with a little face joining in. For new parents, waiting for new life without support. For the single parents, doing all this alone.
For parents who are on the front lines and essential workers who worry every day about being far from home, about bringing something home, about holding it all together as you hold the world together.
This is a prayer for the more than 2,000 meals you've made, for the 100 millionth time you've heard, "Can I have a snack?" For the 5 minutes of alone time you can squeak out every day, for the 2, 4, 6, 60 gray hairs you've acquired so far.
This is a prayer for the meltdowns, the missed naps, the many, many tears, the distance learning homework no one wants to do, but still somehow feel the need to fight about it.
This is a prayer for wondering if they will ever fall asleep, for wondering if they will ever get up. A prayer for pretending that you're enjoying yourself while you all play their favorite game.
This is a prayer for all the missed milestones, for holding your child as they cry over missing their friends, missing their homecoming dance, missing their graduation, for your own tears because you can't fix this problem. This is for all the milestones still marked, the public birthday party parades, the Zoom proms hosted by celebrities, the family celebrations of learning to walk, the first lost tooth, the private personal celebrations of the many times you've watched your children grow and mature right close up.
This prayer is for all the newly formed family bands and midday pajama-clad dance parties, for all the backyard bathing, for the new trampolines, new bikes, new play structures, a prayer for inside obstacle courses and learning to make new crafts for all the pets that have joined new families.
This is a prayer for bonding and breaking, for togetherness and too much togetherness. This is a prayer for love, for anger, for grief, for time out of time. This is a prayer for parenting in a pandemic. Amen. Somewhere over the rainbow, dogs zoom around my neighborhood under their owners' legs on scooters. That's right now a lockdown phenomena. Lighter traffic, more people walking or biking around the neighborhood. And in all those incredible TV series condensed onto new platforms, they've shown us that trouble melts like lemon drops. For you kids, that's an old-fashioned candy. After incredibly complicated plot twists, with all these pandemic day-to-days and maybe silver linings, I am still wrestling with rainbows. Thomas Foster talks about rain and their byproduct, rainbows. What's so special about rain? Ever since we crawled up on the land, the water, it seems to us, has been trying to reclaim us. Periodically, floods come and try to drag us back into the water, pulling down all our improvements while they're at it. You know the story of Noah, represented here by the arks that lay in our swales. Lots of rain, major flood, ark, cubics, dove, olive branch, rainbow. I think that biblical tale must have been the most comforting of all to ancient humans. The rainbow, by which God told Noah that no matter how angry he got, he would never try to wipe us out completely, must have come as great relief. We in the Judeo-Christian Islamic world have a fair chunk of mythology invested in rain and its most stellar byproduct, the rainbow. So, the rainbow is a divine promise. Tomorrow's the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre, and I do hope that those folks took some solace in that promise. COVID-19, COVID-20, 21, COVID-37 maybe won't wipe us out. Melting icebergs maybe won't wipe us out. A hugely militarized police force maybe won't wipe us out. But the harm, millions lost to COVID. The SARS coronavirus was a black swan. That's a metaphoric term, many of you have probably heard by now, that's used to define an event that comes as a surprise, has a tremendous effect, and is often rationalized after the fact with some benefit of hindsight. Now, a black swan doesn't have to be horrible, but an unpredictable catastrophe makes many among us return to the concept attributed to our Hopi neighbors. We are the ones we've been hoping for. Or we need to make a promise to each other that we will work to stem the flood of brutality, of extinction, of misogyny, of resource hoarding and waste, of inequity. We will rainbow each other. And now I invite you to watch the video where members of our congregation were willing to share their lessons from this time in pandemic.
What I wanted to do is I wrote 10 little items. Number one, take off my mask and see the whole faces of other people so we can enjoy smiles again with each other and laugh more together. Number 2, go out to La Carreta for a great breakfast of bacon, 2 fried eggs over easy, warm and fuzzy house potatoes, and a wonderful heartwarming sweet cafe con leche, and a whole restaurant full of the opportunities to people watch. I love it there. A great way to start any day. An excellent chef creates good food all the time, any meal. I've been eating there for several years. It's the one on 117th Avenue in Kenmore. Number 3, go for a walk with no face masks required so I can enjoy full, unrestricted breathing outside as beautiful sea breezes carry perfumes to me from trees, shrubs, ripe Barbados cherries, which I may grab 1 or 2 and eat, and flowers, and often stop to chat briefly with neighbors out and about again without face masks. Return to handshakes, patting friends on shoulders or backs, and an occasional hug without having to run to disinfect hands, elbows, or any contacted body parts, and be close enough to each other so we can see and hear all talking and body language for real communication. Talking to neighbors without discussing are we double vaccinated or not. I want to offer elder advice if and when it is requested or appropriately given, which is my current job. Number 7, go to meetings in person. Number 8, go to the store and walk by the toilet paper without buying it. Number 9, buy a weekly dangerous meal at Publix delis, fried, breaded, crispy, greasy chicken with onion rings, macaroni and cheese, sweet plantains, and deadly Coca-Cola on the way out by the cashier. Total delicious self-destruct. If I go, I'll be happy and well-fed. And number 10, quit worrying about dying every time I sneeze, cough, burp, or fart. I'm double vaccinated. My life is in the hands of Pfizer and the universe. Namaste.
I didn't write it out as Bob did, but I would say that there are a couple things that guided me through the pandemic, this period. The first I'd mention is one of my favorite poems is a poem by Theodore Roethke. In a dark time, the eye begins to see, and the power of moving into the darkness and the clarity that comes from that. And I realized early on, I mean, that was a sense of really, literally what was going on in the world. We were entering a period of darkness. And there's a man whose teachings I've followed for quite a while, Michael Meade, who does a lot of work with mythology out in the West Coast. And he does a lot of podcasts and has talked about this for a while, that, you know, something is being revealed. So really paying attention to that. I think the other thing that came to mind was Stephen Covey's work and 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, where one of his habits is sharpening the saw. So when we have a downtime, we get a chance to sharpen those things, to pay attention to things that we ordinarily, might have to do. And then I think the other thing that comes to mind is, I think the Beatles have the 10,000 hour rule. In order to be good at something, you need like 10,000 hours of practice till you get good at it. So it's not lost on me how fortunate myself and my family has been through the pandemic. And that's been huge. So, the first concern obviously was our health and my family's health, my daughter's health, and watching and safekeeping for all of that. And I was able in my work, hopefully as Roxanne was as well too, we're lucky to work at the university. Other than we had a furlough for a number of weeks during the summer, but my communications team shifted. So just to be blessed to be in this environment of just some of the best leadership in the world, I think, in terms of we have a public health expert. And so to be in this realm of getting good, accurate, constant, consistent information was very supportive. But as part of that, for me, I made a commitment early on just to get up every day at 7, and we would have news huddles every day at 9:30. But I'd have a couple hours of using that time both for a practice of gratitude for some good inspirational reading, for some physical time, and worked into that too. Just a number of things so in terms of what I would focus on. So I'm a writer, so in my team, I realized what I wanted to focus on was being a better team player during this. And again, I was able to be part of an amazing team. We got great support from our leadership all throughout. They realized, I think like a lot of companies did, that the most important thing to do was to take care of your employees. And that was something that we, to eliminate as much stress as possible. So really worked at my writing during this period. Really worked and focused on improving that as a skill of mine. I'm a musician, so it was a great chance to go back and focus on learning the keyboard again, which was something that my mother tried to make me do when I was growing up, and so I went back to that. I've been singing and playing for a while, but I also focused on voice, and just so much of learning about things that I was just didn't realize, some of the basic simple techniques of voice work. So really focused on, and that's why I say the 10,000 rule. So just 5 or 10 minutes every day. Also, I've meditated for years, but at the beginning of the pandemic, I just made a commitment to go back to meditating every day, and really committed to doing that for, again, that couple of hours every morning, during the span of time. Also, part of that was reaching out, to people that I could be in touch with. So I think one of the kind of clarifying pieces that the pandemic said is there's certain things I can do and there's certain things I can't do. So it emphasized those things that you just can't do, and then to make full advantage of the things that I could do, whether it be reaching out to people, phoning somebody, my own work, my own time. So I think that set in with a lot greater awareness of the pandemic, really sought that out. I'll shift gears to maybe what surprised me. I think early on, while there was a lot of uncertainty about the pandemic, about what was happening and trying to get the information, it also was clear that if we followed the advice of people in the know, that it really wasn't rocket science. There was a lot of common sense involved. And so I think what surprised me was, and I don't mean this in an overly negative way, but the depth of ignorance of people to follow hearsay and misinformation, and following that track down the road, which was just horrendous, and the consequences of that. And the ability to choose people who were wise, who clearly had good information, who had, the best interests of people in mind. And so what surprised me was the clarity of that kind of division in where people chose to follow. I think that was one of the biggest, most surprising, things to me in terms of all this. I again find myself amazingly lucky and fortunate in the fact that I don't know anyone who passed. I know who were close to me. I do know a good number of people, some on my work team, who did get COVID, and friends who did get COVID, but thank goodness that their bout was not serious, that they survived it, well. And so feeling, really grateful in terms of that. But it's not lost on me of the depth of the loss and the tragedy that so many people, and the difference of the impact of the disease on so many people. So I want to think that I had some awareness and certainly some compassion around that. So just feeling very, grateful as we come out of this, and appreciate the good work that so many people at our church have done, Shae, that you've done in so many ways, have followed your services, and the tremendous work and support that so many people have done to try to hold us up through this incredibly challenging, incredible time. Thank you.
Hello, folks. This is Charles Bishop. My wife, Maria, and my daughter and Diana and I live together. And in Diana's last year of high school before she goes off to college, this year Maria has worked from home, I've worked from home, and Diana has had school from home. And so we all get up about the same time in the morning. And Maria and I have lunch at noon together, a chance to sit together. Diana has lunch at 10:15 in the morning for school. Can you imagine? How about that? Back to the days of being in high school. And then we share dinner together, and we have a chance to spend some time in the evening. And this has been wonderful. The silver lining in all of this has been the opportunity for us to be close together, and especially in this last year of her high school, to share with her her frustration at not being able to be with her classmates and enjoy all of the perks and adventures of being a senior in high school. But then also to share with her the hopes and the wishes that she has as she prepares to leave town to go to college, and also especially that she's actually going to do that and have a chance to go and be on campus with others, and to see what had been concern about the whole process of admissions turn into the pleasure of having it possible, and then the real joy of having it be accepted. The silver lining is that we haven't had to travel, we haven't had to commute, we haven't had to be faced with this prospect of getting dressed and getting out, but rather we can really turn to each other to share the moment and to share the moments of the day. What a special thing. During this time, I have known people who have gotten ill, and while we have not and are very lucky in that, it's been a hard thing to see them as they have struggled through it and continue to be ill, and even when they're told that they're fine and that they ought to take it easy, to have it still be a struggle and a wrestling with this illness. Our silver lining is that we've been able to stay safe and stay healthy through it all. Thank you.
I guess the silver lining, or well, actually, I'll focus on a skill or hobby that I worked on during the COVID confinement time. I picked up gardening. I haven't ever been much of a gardener. I like plants generally, but I'm not committed to them as a gardener, like some people are. But I did start, kind of putting things in water and seeing if it would root, and then, almost experimental actually. And now the patio has quite a few plants that I've been cultivating from, cuttings and things like that. I don't think anything from seed, but I really appreciate that, because the metaphor of cultivation and tending to the metaphors around gardening are very important to me, and I think about that a lot in my teaching work and in the field of education. And so to be able to kind of work with those metaphors in real, in kind of literal terms of growing, was really gratifying. And I was very much encouraged by, have been very encouraged by a quote by an activist and writer I've been following throughout this period and before, Adrienne Marie Brown, who encourages people to think about, in terms of like kind of transforming and revolutionizing society, think about what you pay attention to grows. And so that has, with the added work of gardening and with what I'm hoping to be cultivation of activities in more generally going forward, I think that's a really important statement for me to think about. What you pay attention to grows. So that was something I gained from being in confinement that I didn't anticipate. A surprising thing about this COVID era, there have been a number of really, really extraordinarily surprising things that I've discovered in my personal life and then more broadly. One, personally, I discovered that I really appreciate solitude way more than I thought I did. And so I thought that unlike lots of people who I think were, and rightfully so, were feeling very challenged and restricted by being at home, it actually, I kept waiting for that feeling of, wanting to break out, and it never came. I just, really adapted. And I think I think maybe just a testament to being adaptable. But I appreciated the breakaway, um, and so that's a little bit surprising to me. And it's been surprising the ways that I've been able to reconnect with people differently. And technology, for those of us who've been fortunate to have the technology at our disposal, has, given us some interesting opportunities to connect with each other. And so that's been surprising to think about that. Um, and with the extraordinary and extraordinarily harsh society that we've lived in over this time frame, where so many people died, and so many people are suffering, and more attention is being paid to the extraordinary systems of racism that are perpetrated here and so many other places. It's been surprising to see how we have, as a society, managed that, and I am really, it's given me a lot to think about, and consider what it is that I want to grow within my more local space. And so I certainly, that's, if anything, a silver lining, that I appreciate having that chance to, have learned something really extraordinary about this country, and the people who inhabit this country, and think about how it is that we might possibly be able to move forward together. That's been really interesting. And then finally, in terms of a friend or family member lost, our family did lose two. We had two ancestors join us. My aunt, Sheila Fills, was my mother's sister, and my sort of aunt-in-law, Charlene Dickinson, who was Dan's aunt. They both passed during this time period, neither from COVID, but the circumstances of their deaths were certainly, complicated by the COVID era, and made difficult to honor them. And so we've been able to do that, in one case privately, in another case, part of the family was able to be with other family members. And so I just want to lift up their names as, again, as people who, spirits now, who are watching over us. So I think those are all the things that I wanted to share. Thank you.